In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this dish scrubby. It has the rough textured side and then the 100% cotton side, as well as a soap saver. So I'm also going to show you how to make this top that opens up so you can remove the soap if you wanted. I left the wrapper on this one because it's going to be given as a gift. So of course you would take the wrapper off, put whatever soap you want into the soap saver. And they call it a soap saver because when you have these, then you don't have the problem of the little leftover slivers of soap. You can just keep adding soap, new soap, to your soap saver, and it has less waste with this use of this soap saver. And you can put your favorite soaps into here. Of course I have 2 soaps in this one, but just to show you, this is from Lush. It's a very nice soap that they make that has a great scent. They have different scented soaps. Then I just wanted to show you this pottery that I found. It's signed. You can take your scrubby and set it right in the center, and it makes a nice gift. I'm also going to show you how to make a washcloth, and with the washcloth all of the ends are closed, and here I have the 100% cotton and the other side is the scrubby side, and I've been using this one and it's been working great. I love it. You could also make them larger if you want and put designs on the back. For this one, 100% cotton again on this side, which means you could put hotter items on this side, and this side could just be your design. For this project, you're going to need your Tunisian crochet hook, and I'm using my 6mm Tunisian crochet hook, and this one's by Susan Bates. You're also going to need a tapestry needle, and I bought a package of pencil grips, and I just placed it right on my Tunisian crochet hook because when you're holding your Tunisian crochet hook, you're putting pressure with your thumb on this side, so it just helps as a grip, so you're not putting too much pressure all the time on your thumb. And also a pair of scissors. For the scrubby part of the dishcloth, I used Red Heart Scrubby. Here's some information on the yarn. The color that I used, one of the colors I used was Ducky, which is like a yellowish color, and then the other color was a green color. So here's the green color. For video, I'm just going to show you with the green color, but this is what the yellow color looks like. For your first time, I would recommend just using one of the colors for your project. You're also going to have plenty of yarn to make more than one if you wanted to. I just used 100% cotton yarn. This is how much I have left of the green still, so you can make several with this. And these are the ones that I've made so far. And I just was experimenting with different colors on one of them. I wouldn't recommend using the color changes with this type of yarn. It's a little bit more difficult to work with. In a later video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make color changes. This is my Minecraft blanket that I'm working on. So I'll be showing you how I made this one, and this is an N, and then here is my T. I'm going to start with the 100% cotton yarn to show you. So go ahead and get your 100% cotton yarn, and you're going to take and fold it over on itself to form a loop. Then take your Tunisian crochet hook and go right through the loop. Hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and then go through that loop for a slip knot. Then just pull on the loose yarn end and cinch the knot around the hook. Then you're just going to make a chain. If you're going to follow mine exactly, then you would just make the same number of chains as me, but If you want it smaller or larger, this is where you determine the size by how large your chain is or how small. So for mine, I'm going to start with the chain of 18. I'm only going to show you 4 of them, and then you can finish the chain on your own. The first thing you do is yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see how I'm forming a chain. You're going to need to start with a chain of 18 or whatever size that you're making for your scrubby. So go ahead, finish your chain. If you're making the same size as me, I'm starting with a chain of 18. This is what my work looks like after finishing a chain of 18. Now for the next step, and this part is critical with Tunisian crochet, is you need to make sure that whatever chain you started with, that's the number of stitches for the rest of your rows. So you have to make sure that you always have 18 stitches or whatever chain you started with. So now we're going to complete the foundation row. The first loop on your Tunisian crochet hook is stitch 1. Now you're going to go into the second chain from the hook. So here is the first chain, and then here is the second chain. So we're going to go into the second chain from the hook. You're going to bring up a loop. So just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring up a loop. So now I have 2 loops on my Tunisian crochet hook. Now you're going to go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. Now you have 3, and you're going to do that all the way back across. And you should have 18 loops on your crochet hook when you get to the end. So go ahead, finish putting all the loops onto your crochet hook, and if you started the same way as me, you should end up with 18 loops on your crochet hook when you reach the end, and then come back. Now you can see how I have 18 loops on my Tunisian crochet hook and how the pencil grip works great. I can move it up and down, position it wherever I want so that my fingers don't get hurt trying to hold pressure on the end of the Tunisian crochet hook. It feels great. So then what you do now, after you have your 18 loops onto your Tunisian crochet hook, you're going to always start by going through only 1 loop. So you yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through only 1 loop for the first stitch. So that counts as 1. Now for the rest of them, you just go through 2 loops. So for the second, you go through 2 loops. Third, fourth, fifth, tenth, 11th, 12th, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now what's really important for this foundation stitch is that you ended up with whatever chain that you started with. So since mine was 18, I ended with 18. If you didn't come out with the correct number, then you need to start again until you get it right, because this is your foundation stitch, and your foundation stitch has to have the right amount of stitches in order for your work to come out right. So now, After you finish your foundation stitch, you'll see that it has these vertical lines on your foundation work. That's the stitch that you're going to be working in from now on. Now, this is considered your foundation row. So now, on our first row, I'm just going to call it our first row now and count this as our foundation row. The thing about Tunisian crochet is for this first row, we're going to work all the way down to the end, and then you're not going to complete that first row until you come back to the beginning, and then that would count as your first row. So here, the loop on your Tunisian crochet hook is your first stitch. You're going to go into the first vertical row here, not row, but first vertical stitch here, and take your crochet hook, go in that vertical stitch. You're going to bring up a loop. So yarn over, bring up a loop. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. You're just going to go into every vertical stitch on that foundation row and bring up a loop. And by the time you reach the end, you should have 18 loops on your hook. So go ahead, work a loop through each of the vertical stitches until you have a total of 18. I'm going to work the last stitch with you. So come back when you reach the end. On my Tunisian crochet hook, so far, I have 17 loops. I'm at the end. I have 1 loop left, which is on the very end of the work. So you take your crochet hook, go into that last stitch, bring up a loop, and now I have a total of 18 loops on my crochet hook. So basically I finished half of my first row. Now I'm going to complete my first row. And the reason why I stress that is because when we start, if you're going to be making the Minecraft blanket with me to see how I make my color changes, you'll be able to see what row you're on in order to make the color change. So this is the first half, and I'm going to complete the first row. You're going to start it the same way. You yarn over and you only go through 1 loop for the first stitch going back. So that was 1. And now I'm going to go through 2 loops for stitch 2, 3, and then you're just going to go through 2 loops all the way back to the beginning and then come back. I just wanted to show you a little bit of how I'm working with the pencil grip. So you can see how nice that pencil grip is. This is a jelly pencil grip. You can see how it works great. So my pressure with my thumb on the hook as I turn it is on the jelly grip. And it's called a pencil grip, and you can find them in most stores. Just look for pencil grip. This one I found at Walmart, and it came in a package of them. It was really inexpensive. And then I just completed the first row. Now I'm going to show you how to move up to the second row. It's made the exact same way. So now I'm going to be working on the second row. So I'm going to take and go into that first vertical stitch. So the first one on the crochet hook is your first stitch. This will be my second. Then I'm going to go into the third. And what's nice about this stitch is all of your vertical stitches will line up, so you'll know where the count is and how to count the row as well. So again, this is the foundation stitch. This was the first row, and now we're working on the second. And by the time you reach the end, you should have 18 loops on your crochet hook, because I started with a chain of 18. Now I've reached the end. You could see how all of my vertical stitches are lined up, so that means that I did it correctly. Now I'm on the last stitch. So I have 17 loops on my crochet hook. I'm going to go into that last stitch for 18. Bring up a loop. I finished half of my second row. I'm going to go ahead and complete my second row, not counting my foundation row. So for the first one, you only go through one loop. And then for the rest, you're going to go through 2 loops. All the way back to the beginning. And then come back. And that is how simple it is for Tunisian crochet. The thing about Tunisian crochet is it likes to curl on itself, but you won't have to worry for the washcloth because we're just going to be sewing them together and then it doesn't curl on you. You can see how the work will like to curl on you if you make the Minecraft blanket with me. But I'm going to show you how I do what's called blocking, and that's where you iron it. If you're using acrylic, 100% acrylic, you have to be really careful when you're blocking because it can melt or cause a shine on your work, even if you're ironing on the back. So I just use the lowest setting and a mist of water, and that helps it lay flatter. And the thing about using the color changes is I'm going to show also how to use a backing, because it would be a nightmare trying to bury all the loose yarn in. So I'll show you how to do that too if you're going to be making the Minecraft blanket. Even if you're not going to be making the Minecraft blanket and you want to make your own design, as I'm making the Minecraft blanket, I will show you how you can design your own patterns. Now you're just going to keep working until you've completed the number of rows that you want for your scrubby. For mine, I finished 10 rows. Go ahead and finish 10 rows for your scrubby. If you want a smaller one, this one I started with a chain of 14. And then I only made 9 rows for this one. But I like the size. This one works well, but I also like the size of this one. So I'm just going to make this one, I started with a chain of 18. On this one I started with the chain of 18 and then I finished 10 rows. So go ahead, finish 10 rows if you want to make yours the same as mine, and then come back. So for mine, I just finished the 10th row. You can see how you can count the rows. All of my vertical lines line up, which is how you want your work to look. So this first row was the foundation row. So I'm counting from up here. You can count this if you want to, but for mine I'm just going to show you by not counting the foundation row. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then when you have the amount of rows that you want for yours, then you just take your crochet hook, then just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the one end. Now we're going to work on the scrubby side. You can see the texture of this yarn is a little bit different. So I'm going to show you with this yarn what it would look like when you're working with this style of yarn. You're going to start the exact same way. So that's why I showed you with the 100% cotton yarn first, because you're going to be working the exact same pattern. So just take your yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop, then you take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb, and then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for a slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain, and I'm making mine the exact same way, so I'm going to start with a chain of 18. I'm just going to show you a few of them. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead, finish a chain of 18 and then come back. This is what mine looks like after finishing a chain of 18. Then we're going to finish the foundation row the same way. You're going to go into the second chain from the hook. You're going to bring up a loop. So now you have 2 loops on your hook. I'm just going to bring the camera a little bit closer. Now you're going to go into the next stitch. You're going to bring up a loop, and you should have 18 loops when you're done. So far we've done 3 stitches, so I have 3 loops. Go into the next one. Whoops. So go ahead, finish working all the way across. If you don't have 18 loops by the time you reach the end, that means you either missed a loop or did something wrong. Go ahead, finish bringing up a loop until you have a total of 18 loops or whatever chain you started with, and then come back. Now I've reached the end and I have 18 loops on my Tunisian crochet hook. You're going to work back across the foundation row the same way you did with the 100% cotton yarn. You're going to yarn over and go through only 1 loop for the first stitch, and then 2 loops for the rest of the stitches. So this is 2, 3, 4, and by the time you reach the end, 5, you should have a total of 18, and then come back. I finished up with 18 because I started out with a chain of 18. So whatever chain you start with, that is the number of stitches you should end up with. And the same thing that you had with the 100% cotton yarn, you're going to have these vertical stitches, and you're going to be working in those vertical stitches. So you take, I'm going to work this one with you. So this is going to be, we just finished a foundation row. So now we're going to be working on our first row. So you're going to take your crochet hook. I have the first stitch on my crochet hook. The vertical row is stitch, vertical stitch is right next to the first loop that you had. You're going to bring up a loop. Now you have 2. You're going to go to the next vertical row. You're going to bring up a loop. And I'm just going to work this with you all the way across. And like I said, it's the exact same thing as with your 100% cotton. The only difference is, and why I showed you with the 100% cotton first, is so that you can see where the stitches are. And you can see with this yarn too, but it's a little bit more difficult. So unless you've worked with the 100% cotton yarn first, it may be hard for you to see them. And just like the 100% cotton yarn, you should end up with the same number of loops as the stitches that you started with. So you're just going to keep working all the way across, and you can count them as you work, or you can count them once you reach the end. Normally I count them, but since I'm talking as I'm working, I can't count my loops, so I'll count them when I go back. I just want to show you how I work the loops as I'm going across. Once you get the hang of it, it's very easy, and I would recommend getting used to it because I love how this scrubby portion of your whatever, whether you're making a soap saver or a dish scrubber, I think it works great. And then of course you can't forget your last loop on the end, so it will stay straight. So now I'm just going to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I ended up with 18 loops, which is what you should end up with. If your count is not right, then you're going to have to start over if you want it to come out right. So now to go back, I just finished half of the first row. So now I'm going to complete the first row, and to do that, you just yarn over and go through one loop for the first stitch only. So that's one. And now you go through 2 loops for the rest. So this is the second, third, ninth, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You just completed one row, and you can see how you always end up with the number of stitches that you had for the first chain, whatever chain you started with. So go ahead, finish the rest just like you did with the 100% cotton yarn for 10 rows, and then come back. I just finished my last row, and I just wanted to show you, you can see the vertical lines on this one too. You can see how it goes right down. Once you've done the stitches, you'll be able to see them, and they should all line up perfectly, which mine did. Then after you finish your 10th row, then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Now I'm going to show you how to crochet the ends together. Now you're going to take the 2 pieces. With the 100% cotton, you can decide which side you want to have showing. This side is the smoother side, and then this side has little bumps. So I like using this side for the outside scrubbing side. So this would be the wrong side. So you want the right side facing up. Then you take your scrubby, and it's the same thing. You have the smoother side, and then you have the rougher side. So I like the rougher side to be the right side showing. So I have the right side showing up on one side. I'm going to put the 2 right sides together. So I have the wrong side up on the scrubby, and I have the wrong side up on the 100% cotton. Now, with the wrong side of the 100% cotton facing you, and then you have the scrubby on the other side, you're going to take your crochet hook and just go through the first loop. So just one side of the loop on the 100% cotton side, and then you're going to grab the end of the scrubby side. Then you're going to take your yarn, 100% cotton yarn, and just loop it and bring it through. and then just chain, not chain, but tie a knot. Then you're just going to take and loop all the way across. So you're going to keep the loops on your hook. So you're going to go into the next stitch. And I just grabbed the stitch. Then I'm going to grab a stitch on the scrubby side. Bring up a loop. So now I have 2 loops, and you're just going to do that all the way across. You're grabbing a loop on the 100% cotton and the scrubby side and just bringing up a loop. You're going in each stitch across. I'm trying to grab just the 1 loop on the 100% cotton and then the 1 loop on the green. When you reach the end, come back and then I'll show you what to do next. Then you can see how I grabbed my last stitch of both the green and the 100% cotton. Then you're just going to work it the same way that you did before. You're just going to yarn over and pull through 1 loop. And then the rest you're going to pull through 2. All the way back across. And then you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side and then come back. So I just finished the one side and I just wanted to show you, you can see how it forms a nice seam. And this is the right side that's going to be showing. So make sure that you keep it closed. This is the wrong side. And now I'm going to crochet the opposite side the exact same way that I did on this side. And then come back. Now I have both sides crocheted together, and I just have the 2 end pieces that I have to work. You still have the wrong side facing out and showing. Now you're going to take the long end that you left for sewing and take your tapestry needle, put it onto the long end, and you're just going to sew one of the ends shut. So you just take your tapestry needle and just go right through both pieces and just sew the one end together. And then come back. Now after you finish sewing the one end together, you can turn it inside out. That way all of your loose yarn ends will be on the inside, and then you have the right side showing. Then you can take and tuck all of the loose yarn ends into the center so we can finish sewing the last end. If you're making the soap saver, I'll show you that separately. First, I'm just going to show how to sew the scrubby closed. Just take your 100% cotton yarn and put it onto your tapestry needle, and then just take and go through the end just like you did before. Leave a long enough loose yarn end for burying into your work. You can go ahead and tie a knot. And then you just go in and out and just sew the end together. So I brought my work back across and tied a knot to the loose yarn end that I left, and then you can just go right where you tied your knot and then come through the middle of your work and then come out anywhere on the front of your scrubby to bury the loose yarn end. Just take and cut the loose yarn end. Go ahead and bury your other loose yarn end and then come back. This is what your work will look like when you're done. You have the one side with the scrubby, a little bit rougher texture, and then you have the soft 100% cotton side. Just wanted to show a close-up of the scrubby that I'm going to show you how to make. Here is the rougher texture side, and then you have the softer 100% cotton side. There's nothing in the center. And I used the Tunisian crochet technique to make it. It's going to be a gift for someone. And I'm going to use this pottery, this beautiful pottery that I found. And you could place your finished scrubby into whatever gift that you want to give. If you're making the soap saver, then I just buried all of the loose yarn ends. I'm just going to show you. You just take your tapestry needle, put it onto the loose yarn ends, and just bury it into your work. You just weave it in and out. And then you can cut your loose yarn end, and I just leave a little bit of loose yarn end on the inside. Go ahead and bury all of your loose yarn ends and then come back. Now, after you finish burying your loose yarn ends, then you can turn your work so that the right side is facing out. Then I'm going to show you how to make the top for your soap saver. Just take your crochet hook, go into the corner of the work. Actually, I'm going to start in this first stitch here on the 100% cotton side, and then just grab your 100% cotton yarn. You're going to bring up a loop and then just tie a knot. I'm still using my Tunisian crochet hook. You could use a regular crochet hook too if you wanted, but I'm just going to go ahead and just keep the same hook that I'm using. Then you're going to make a chain of 4. That's going to count as your first double crochet and chain 1. Now you're going to make a double crochet into the same stitch, and that will complete a V-stitch. Yarn over, go into the same stitch, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. And then you just completed a V-stitch. So then you're going to skip the next stitch and make a V-stitch into the second stitch. So you yarn over, go into the second stitch, bring up a loop, make a double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet in the same stitch. And you're just going to work this pattern all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. I'm going to work one more with you though. So yarn over, skip a stitch, work a double crochet into the second stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, and repeat all the way back to the beginning. This is what my work looks like so far. I just finished making the V-stitch all the way around the top of the soap saver. Now you're going to make a slip stitch into that top stitch of the chain 3. So you actually started with the chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're going to slip stitch into the third chain. So 1, 2, 3. Take your crochet hook, go into that third chain, yarn over, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you can go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you can go ahead and bury all of your loose yarn ends and then come back. This is how much yarn that I have left of the Peaches and Cream 100% cotton yarn, and I was able to make 4 scrubbies with this yarn. They were all different sizes. For the soap saver chain, you can use whatever yarn you want. I'm going to use my green yarn, and I'm going to start it the same way that we did with the foundation row. So you just yarn over for the slip knot, and then make the chain the length that you want for your cord for hanging the soap saver. For mine, I started out with a chain of 50. So I have a chain of 50. That means that when I make my foundation chain, I'm going to go into my second chain from the hook, bring up a loop. You're going to end up with 50 loops on your crochet hook. So go ahead, finish going into each stitch and bringing up a loop until you have the number of loops as the initial chain that you started with. For mine, it would be 50. This is what mine looks like when I'm finished. You can see all my loops on the crochet hook. The exact number isn't as important for this one since we're just making the foundation row for the cord. The first thing though that I do is I just yarn over and go through the first loop only, just like we did before. And then for the rest of them, I'm just going to yarn over and go through 2 all the way back to the beginning. And then come back. This is how my work looks when I've reached the end. Then you can go ahead and just finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the ends together and to bury your work. You have plenty of this scrubby yarn left over to make more if you wanted. Then you're just going to take your cord and weave it through the V-stitch that you made at the top of your soap saver. This is what mine looks like after I finished weaving the cord through, made sure that the ends were close to each other. Then I'm just going to take my tapestry needle, put it onto the long end that I left for sewing, and then I'm just going to sew the 2 ends together. Just going in and out the 2 ends. Then you can take and tie a knot with the loose yarn end. And then just bury your loose yarn ends. And then come back. Then you can just take your favorite soap, whatever soap that you like. And if you're giving it as a gift, you can just stick the soap inside. And of course, if you're going to use it, you'll take the wrapper off. And your soap saver is complete. And then you have the little cord for hanging up your soap saver. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this dish scrubby. It has the rough textured side and then the 100% cotton side, as well as a soap saver. So I'm also going to show you how to make this top that opens up so you can remove the soap if you wanted. I left the wrapper on this one because it's going to be given as a gift. So of course you would take the wrapper off, put whatever soap you want into the soap saver. And they call it a soap saver because when you have these, then you don't have the problem of the little leftover slivers of soap. You can just keep adding soap new soap to your soap saver, and it has less waste with this use of this soap saver. And you can put your favorite soaps into here. Of course, I have 2 soaps in this one, but just to show you, this is from Lush. It's a very nice soap that they make that has a great scent. They have different scented soaps.